Senator Sasse.
Thank you, Chairman. Director Comey, I think that the Horowitz report is not just saddening and infuriating, it's also really embarrassing. As somebody who cares deeply about the FBI and its culture and its workers, we got a whole bunch of American patriotic heroes who work inside that institution, and they have lost standing. They've lost respect in the eyes of the American people. A lot of trust has evaporated. I've fought hard to defend the FBI and its culture, and I was embarrassed to read the Horowitz report. When you read it, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you're embarrassed by?
Well, I think I share your reaction, Senator Sasse. The collection of omissions, failures to consider updates, to communicate between the team trying to figure out what's true and what's not true with the Steele material and the team investigating Carter Page is embarrassing. It's sloppy. I'm run out of words. There's no indication, and the Inspector General would say it if he found it, that people were doing bad things on purpose, but that doesn't make it any less concerning and embarrassing.
But doesn't that point at you? I mean, you and I have spoken multiple times over my 5.5 years here, or I guess from arriving here in January of 2015 through to your departure in 2017. You and I had many, many discussions about the future of cyber and information operations against not just the United States government, but against institutions more broadly that would sow distrust. And you and I agreed that the FBI had not just an incredibly important mission in that space, but a really hard mission. There was a lot of work to be done to be sure we were prepared to play defense against the kind of cyber and information operations that we're now talking about here today. And we said, you and I agreed on this, that public trust was at risk. And as we listen to you testify today, repeatedly you say things like, I was unaware. There's this passive voice about how all these things happened in the Bureau. It was your culture. You were the leader. You were to maintain and build up that culture, and you understood the nature of the challenge. Isn't the Horowitz report chiefly an indictment of you personally?
Oh, 2 things are true, and I hope you don't hear me to say I'm not responsible. I was leader of that institution, so this reflects on me entirely, and it's my responsibility. That's a separate question from whether I was briefed on a particular aspect of a particular investigation. But no, I'm not looking to shirk responsibility. The director is responsible.
I appreciate that. That's a real answer. But my question wasn't just about the particular investigation that's the headline of today's hearing. It's that the IG Horowitz's report talks about a FISA process that is riddled with errors. Every single place they looked, it was crap. You were in charge. How is it possible that the FISA process is that bad? I have defended the FISA process. I've fought against many of the particular reforms that some of my colleagues have wanted to advance because I believed the checks and balances in the system were real. You were responsible for those checks and balances. Where were you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think all of us, me in particular, took comfort in the complexity of the layers and layers of review and oversight associated with FISA. And I actually think, given that they found problems in every FISA application, that what we thought was a good thing was actually a bad thing. And I hope they're looking at returning the model to one closer to criminal wiretaps, where a single agent and a single lawyer are responsible and they feel the squeeze of signing their name. What happened to us, I think, through a lot of years of creating oversight is responsibility was diffused instead of concentrated in individual human beings. I hope that's something the Inspector General and the Director are looking at, but I share your concern. It's a really important question.
I think that's insufficient. I have a lot of neighbors in Nebraska who believe there is a massive deep state conspiracy. I don't believe most of those conspiracy theories, but it is really hard to understand how that many special agents, and I want to be clear, the vast majority of special agents are wonderful, hardworking humans who have lots of opportunities to earn more money and have more schedule control if they were doing something else. The FBI is filled with men and women who do great stuff for the American people. So I want to fight hard to defend against impugning so many of them, and yet it appears that at the top of your organization, there was a culture where many of the people who should have been doing the hard work to make sure the checks and balances were fully carried out didn't think there was really any chance they would get caught, and so they could be sloppy to malicious. A lot of people in this room and watching at home or who read the Horowitz report can have different views about how much of this is incompetence to evil, but somewhere on that continuum, there was a whole hell of a lot of people at the top of your organization who didn't ever actually think they were going to be held accountable. What did you do to manage the FISA process so that you don't just have the passive voice that we've heard in the vast majority of your answers today? I was unaware. This happened. This was an individual particular error, but it didn't speak systemically. But the truth is, you are responsible for systemically and systematically managing that culture. What did you do to make sure the FISA process would work?
First, Senator, the notion of a deep state, I hope people who think that would take a look at the fact that the Inspector General found mistakes in FISA applications across counterintelligence, counterterrorism, all manner of cases. Very difficult to reconcile that finding with the notion that there's a deep state. But it does indicate there's a problem with attention to the requirements of preparing an adequate FISA. I clearly didn't do enough. I believe that our process, which I kept myself closely informed about, was robust, well-staffed, had great manuals and all those sorts of things. I was clearly wrong about that and had too much confidence in that oversight regime. And I think, based on my experience, that the problem may well be deceptively simple. The responsibility was spread among dozens of people instead of being focused the way it is in a criminal case.
But the leadership in your office didn't have oversight of the dozens of people who would sign off on the most important investigations. The Bureau has done amazing things in its century of existence, and there have been lots of high-profile investigations. But this one was obviously one of the most high-profile investigations ever conducted, and the people at the top didn't think that they would actually have their work checked. Mr. Chairman, I continue to believe that we have to explain to the American people why the FISA process is important. The Russia challenges that we faced in 2016 and that we clearly are facing again in 2020 are a big deal. But the much bigger deal is the Chinese Communist Party attacks on the American election that are coming over the next decade. Putin is clunky as heck in how he does everything he does. When the CCP does all that they are capable of doing, it's going to make Russia interference look like child's play. And the FBI and the broader intelligence community have a vitally important role to play in helping protect the American people. And we have to explain to the American public why the FISA process is so critically important, and we have to reform this culture. I'm a big Amy Klobuchar fan in lots of ways, but I disagree with the line of argument that this broad hearing topic isn't important. The reality is we're headed toward a world where if we don't fix the national security branch and the counterintelligence pieces of the FBI, we are not going to have an intelligence community that's going to have the trust of the American people when they're going to have to employ bigger and more far-reaching digital tools in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.